During the early 90s, rushing yards seemed to be the most looked at stat for individual players, as being a rushing leader really meant something back then. Statistical leaders would appear in newspapers as it would be shown by which conference they played in. For the NFC in the early 90s, Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders were the names mainly seen on top, as other talented running backs who produced were perhaps overshadowed. One of those NFC running backs who produced that was overshadowed by Smith and Sanders was Rodney Hampton. Rodney Hampton, drafted in the first round, 24th overall out of Georgia by the Giants in 1990, he was a physical runner that seemed to be a good fit for New York's physical style. Louis Tillman would be the back to get most of the carries to begin the season for the Giants, and then the veteran Otis Anderson would be the one to get the majority of the carries in 1990. But near the end of the season, Hampton got his chance. However, injuries were a problem for number 27, as Hampton was dealing with a severely sprained ankle during the season and missed the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl due to a broken leg. Enter the 1991 season, Bill Parcells would no longer be the Giants head coach, as Ray Handley would take over. According to a Washington Post article by Mike Freeman, Handley emphasized rotating running backs since training camp. But in October, Giants Super Bowl MVP Otis Anderson was being quite selfless, as he suggested to Handley to stick with one combination, as Anderson knew he wasn't going to be the chosen one but wanted to do what was best for the team. Thus Handley agreed, and then Hampton would be named the starter and become a reliable fixture in the Giants backfield for years to come, as he would be their best offensive weapon. So in 1991, Hampton, he finished third in the NFC in rushing yards with 1,059 behind Smith and Sanders, and tied for fourth in the NFC with 10 touchdowns. All this despite missing the first 2 games of the season with a bruised shoulder. This NFL season, only 3 running backs made the NFC Pro Bowl team. However, Washington's Ernest Biner was named a Pro Bowler instead of Rodney Hampton. But for the 92 season, Hampton played in 16 games and made his first Pro Bowl, as he finished 5th in the NFC in rushing yards with 1,141 and 2nd in rushing touchdowns with 14. Enter the 1993 season, and Dan Reeves, he'd become the new head coach, and Dan Reeves' teams, they really wanted to run the ball. Hampton had a tremendous start and would record another 1,000-yard season and make another Pro Bowl, but from this point on, his yards per carry would get below 4. During the season, Hampton would only be able to play in 12 games, but would record 1,077 yards, which is good for 5th in the NFC, and be 3rd in the NFC in terms of rushing yards per game with 89.8. The Giants would make the playoffs for the 93 season, and this would basically be the only season where there was consistent quarterback play. Previously, Sims and Hostetler, they would have injury issues, and then Kent Graham and Dave Brown weren't quite the answer at quarterback. Then for the 1994 and 1995 seasons, Hampton would be around his typical 1,100-yard season, but after that, Hampton would only play 2 more seasons and would not get to that 1,000-yard mark for those 2 seasons. During Rodney Hampton's 8-year career, the physical running back for the Giants was a consistent running back, recording 5 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, which was quite a feat. Rodney Hampton is one of the best running backs in New York Giants history, but during his prime, Hampton was one of those running backs who produced but was overshadowed by Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith. Real quick, I just want to thank all those who have supported 90 Sports Nostalgia. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, and check out the links below for Patreon. Thank you so much. Rodney Hampton, a forgotten 1,000-yard rusher in the early 90s.